Hello and welcome to Data Cloud Global Congress 2026 here in the beautiful city of Cannes. Joining me now is Manish Kumar, EVP of Secure Power and Data Centers at Schneider Electric. Manish, pleasure having you on this side of the Atlantic because we just saw each other about two weeks ago up in North America. How are you finding the conference so far? Is this your first one?
This is my first one. I'm actually
A newbie.
Yes, this is the first one, but I'm extremely delighted to be here, having conversations with a lot of the customers, partners, and thinking about such an exciting future all of us we have ahead. Scaling up the next generation digital infrastructure powered by AI and the potential across all the sectors and transformation possible.
Yeah.
So very excited to be here.
Yeah, this is the boost of the new economy, of the next economy over the next few decades.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the world has always moved in chunks, from railways, electrification, and I think AI is that one chunk which will again leap forward us and a potential across all the sectors.
And potentially bigger than the industrial revolution, but we'll touch on that in a second because even though this is your first conference, Data Cloud conference, for a reason as well, because the role is quite new too. You took over about 6 months ago. How are you fitting into this new day-to-day? What does your day-to-day look like compared to 6 months ago?
Yeah,
how's it going?
So it's 5 months ago,
Yeah,
but it feels like a long time.
Well, it feels like 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a few things. First is, I think the pace is incredible fast. It's exciting. As I said, the potential of AI to make an impact across sectors is tremendous. We are very privileged, Schneider, as an energy technology company, to be at the forefront of powering AI factories, right? Whether it's from power architecture, cooling architecture, digital architecture. So I'm finding it really, really exciting to be in a position to contribute and advance Schneider's vision of being energy technology partner, but bring customers unique value and help them scale globally at speed.
Which is why Schneider has been investing so heavily, especially in manufacturing plants across the world during COVID, post-COVID, and I'm sure that's just the start of it. When you look into a data center, the infrastructure itself has changed. The way you design, the way you architecture the facility has changed. What are the main differences, would you say, there are now in terms of powering, designing, building a facility?
I mean, I think if you think about it, not long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the average rack size was 10 kilowatt. What's our rack size now? We already have 100, 150 kilowatt. And I think we're going to keep going and, megawatt or maybe even more down the line. So I think that is forcing us to think differently about electrical architecture, cooling architecture, as well as digital architecture, but also the speed at which we need to deploy this technology. So if I dig deeper, electrical architecture, you need to be able to design the most efficient, resilient, redundant architecture. On cooling side, we used to air-cool data centers. Liquid cooling is going to become the foundation. On digital side, if you think about it, we used to have probably, handful of thousands of points to be monitored, analyzed, and then check the health and then operate. But now it's going to be millions of points that need to be monitored, and we really need to think about as a digital operating system, digital twin, to be able to look at subsystem, but also dependency between subsystem as well. And the last point I mentioned was speed. And this is where I think the big shift is happening is towards prefabricated, whether it's a power module or IT module as well.
Which helps curb as well some of the supply chain issues.
Absolutely. I mean, there is also a skilled workforce challenge. I think a company like Schneider, with scale of manufacturing and expertise, we are able to bring all of that expertise into the prefabricated modules and be able to ship customers pre-tested, pre-integrated, so they can actually deploy the technology at a much, much faster speed.
When we look at challenges of the industry, I mean, everyone talks about power, everyone talks about skills, but if I give you 3 options, land, power, speeds, what would you say is the biggest challenge for the market now?
Yeah, I think today the biggest challenge is power, for sure. I think there are certain geographies that is more profound, there are certain geographies less profound. But I think we are also discussing with some of the customers, I think AI's fundamental promise of more productivity, more efficiency, I think we can bring it back into how we design, operate, build data center by using AI for solving the problem of AI by making a data center much more energy efficient as well and sustainable as well.
And in the last 5 months, what's been a use case that you've seen within your day-to-day functions that's surprised you?
I think what has surprised me most is really the scale of opportunity. And actually, we are at the beginning of the journey. Let's not forget that. I think we are all saying we are deploying gigawatts, but we are at the very, very beginning of the journey. I just give you one example, personal anecdote from my own life. My daughter, she's ninth grader, and I asked her, for the last 3 weeks, you haven't asked me any math help. And she said, you know what, I'm using AI to help me answer some of the questions. So we are working in tandem, and she takes a picture of the question, put it on the one of the applications apps, and she's getting very, very crystal clear answer and support. Right now, imagine number of students who can benefit from this. Every ninth grader typically has mobile phone these days, right? Now you think about also nurses, think about dentists, think about life sciences. So I think the potential is huge. We're at the beginning of the journey, so that's what has surprised me. The good news is we have the technology. I think we just need to deploy at scale faster and bring those benefits for all of us.
What part of the AI spectrum excites you the most? So inference, agentic, LLMs?
I would say that all of them have a role to play depending on the problem statement. So I am excited about all of them because all of them have a role to play, as I said, to make all of us, every industrial sector, but also consumer side as well, more productive, efficient, So I am excited about everything. I think more and more as we go forward, I think we're going to definitely move towards more inference and then more agentic AI, and then help us do a lot more with far less, I would say, in less time.
Okay. And then, of course, this is a global industry. So there's different geographies. Every geography is building data centers. Every country is now after this business. Sovereignty comes into play as well in some of these conversations, but we won't touch on that now. When it comes to geography conversation, how do you see the requirements to deploy a data center in a warmer climate, drier climate, cooler climate, wetter climate? How does that change? And especially when you have to take into consideration higher power density racks, when you have to take into consideration liquid cooling. How does that all change from a geographical perspective?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think I would say more or less the architectures are same, and we are investing a lot of time with our technical experts bringing out reference design. So it's always from chip out, the electrical architecture, cooling architecture, digital architecture, and trying to standardize as much as possible. Because if we standardize, we can get speed and cost. Remember, all of us are trying for the same goal. How do we democratize AI, so tokens per watt or token per dollar cost, to make it so much available for everyone? I think the only difference, as you were asking the question subtle, is the ambient conditions or the climate. So in a hotter environment, you will have probably a different sort of heat rejection system versus colder climate. As an example, maybe Iceland, you will need dry cooler, but maybe warmer climates you will need chillers more as well. So.
Okay, and a recent big acquisition for Schneider was a company called Motive with cooling distribution units. How is that being integrated into the business? How is that changing how Schneider does business? Because this opens a much bigger addressable market for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, Motive is a great company led by great people, domain experts. They have been supporting supercomputers for decades. 6 of the largest supercomputers are cooled by Motive technology. So we are bringing that technology that used to support supercomputers to AI racks, which is kind of, in a way, you can think about the supercomputer at scale, right? So we are integrating, we are bringing a relationship to Motivare, a lot of the customer relationship. We're also helping, Motivare entrepreneurs who came to Schneider is scale. So we are expanding manufacturing in Italy, in India, and elsewhere to be able to support globally this technology across all customer types.
Yeah. I mean, Motive is a fascinating family story. So
you were there with us.
I know.
We visited the manufacturing.
I've learned all about the beginnings of it. It's a family. It's a beautiful family story behind the company. What would you say on the back of that as well? Because this wasn't the first acquisition that Schneider has done. Schneider has developed a lot. You invest a lot of money every year into R&D. You have a huge portfolio. Of course, Motive is one of the latest acquisitions. There'll be more for sure. With public company, you have to deliver. Why is it so important to have an end-to-end solution off the shelf ready for the market, no matter where you land?
This is a great question because I think the way we are approaching the AI factory, because the paradigm is shifting from few tens of megawatt of data centers to AI factories, hundreds of megawatt, right? And then we have a challenge of skilled people. And then there is a dependency between, subsystem. Electrical system is dependent on cooling, cooling is dependent on, electrical. So, and then we need a digital sort of system to be able to not only monitor, but kind of, orchestrate the dependencies as well. So I think the future is not about point solution. It's about integrated system that works systematically in unison with all the subsystems. So that's why for us, we want to help customers solve their AI factory challenge, which is completely digital twin solution working across subsystems from design, build, operate, life cycle. Remember, these assets are billions of dollars of investment. They have a life of 15, 20 years. You don't have a challenge only to build, but you also have to operate for 15 years. And we also have a challenge of skilled workforce. The only way you can manage efficiently, and again, coming back to efficiency cost and driving more tokens per watt, is by thinking as a system thinking rather than a subsystem thinking.
Yeah, that's some very interesting points, especially the capex versus the opex, because we tend to focus on capex and the initial funding capital, but not what takes it and maintain it and run it. If you had the money, where would you invest it right now, knowing that it wouldn't give you any returns in the next 5 years, but it will be a winning bet? What would be the thing?
So I think if you think about it, we know that the chip and the compute density is going to continue to scale, right? It has been happening for decades. It will continue to happen even more accelerated space, which means the electrical architecture and thermal architecture that work today will not work 5 year, 10 year down the line. So we are investing heavily in the next generation of higher voltage architecture, next generation of cooling technology. How do we get more power to the racks, and how do we get faster and more heat out of the data center facility? So those are the two areas. And then the third one is really digital, to be able to create a agentic sort of workforce that can help our customers maintain these data centers at scale and efficiently.
Okay. In 12 months' time, when we're back here in sunny Cannes, I'm sure it's going to be sunny again, what's the one thing that Schneider is going to have announced by then that's going to wow the market?
I won't be able to share anything confidential, but a lot of the roadmap that we have been already sharing, you have attended some of the sessions as well. So we will see more progress around all those three, I would say, architecture, electrical, cooling, and digital. We'll keep making progress.
Okay. Well, Manish Kumar, EVP of Secure Power and Data Centers at Schneider Electric, thanks so much for talking to me. As for your home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and social media for the latest digital infrastructure news from across the globe. At the Tech Capital you lead, we report. Bye for now.